All right. So, welcome back to another episode of the My Favorite Girl Caregivers Corner podcast. We are back for episode 8. I know it's been a moment. The goal was to do it every Friday, but life happens. And so, when you're a caregiver, especially a caregiver or two, you just have to go with the flow and you do it when you can do it. And so, we're back this week and we're grateful for the opportunity to have another episode. And this week's episode, we are talking to Melissa Wos, and she is a family caregiver as well as an Alzheimer's advocate. So, Melissa, thank you so very much for joining me on today for this very important conversation. I'm excited to have you on. And I just want to take a moment and just allow you to introduce yourself, if you will.
Sure, absolutely. And thank you for having me, Priscilla. I won't lie, I've been following your journey as well on Facebook, and very super excited to be here with you. So thank you for having me. So a little bit about my journey. The reason that I'm even in this Caregivers Corner right now is because of my mom. She was diagnosed with Alzheimer's now about 8.5 years ago. And when my dad passed away, we moved my mom down to Florida with myself and my wife. And my wife is now her full-time caregiver. She quit her job as a manager at a local retail store, and she became my mom's full-time caregiver. And that's where we are. That's where we are today, and here we are. Here we are fighting this Alzheimer's journey. So, along the way, obviously, right? I mean, I have, like you said, when we first started the journey, I was doing the walk from the beginning because it just seemed like a really, easy way to kind of get involved and maybe meet people in the community and see, what are other people experiencing, what other families experiencing. And as time went on, I realized, wow, you know what? I need to find a cure. I need to do a little bit more. I need to really reach out to the people who can make those changes and get the money we need, for research and for our scientists to figure out what it is they need to do to just kill this disease and have our first survivor. So that's why we're here today.
Yeah, I'm telling you this, and it's a journey. A journey
Yeah.
it is, and
Oh yeah.
just like you, I did the same thing. Joined the Alzheimer's Walk here in Tallahassee, and I believe this is my 4th year that I've been doing it. But same type thing, when you realize the severity of it, seriousness of it, and the need for that cure. I did the same thing just to be able to connect with other people and man, I've met some amazing people
Oh yeah.
that are, a part of the walk as well. And being able to meet you on Facebook, I met you through the Advocacy program and just some other groups that we're also a part of. And I saw your story, and you are a champion advocate, and I love it. I love everything about it. And just being able to see that there's somebody else out there who's on the same. I often say we're on different roads, maybe, but it's the same journey. And
Yeah.
so just a lot of time knowing and understanding that you're not in this thing by yourself makes a world of difference. And so that's one of the reasons why I reached out to you, just to talk about your journey. People have heard my journey, parts of it that I've shared, and I share just because, I want people to understand the fullness of it,
Yeah.
not just the funny moments, but those moments that aren't funny, those things that happen that you can't control them. You
Yeah.
wish you could, and I read that even in your walk, on your walk page. There's some things, I mean, you wish that you can change all of it,
Oh
but
yeah.
you have absolutely no control of it.
We're
And
powerless.
so
Yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
and I know, your mom is a little bit more advanced than my mom,
Yeah.
but just to move forward in the conversation, you said that it's been 8.5 years.
Yes. Eight and a
Whew,
half. Yep.
wow, eight and a
Yep.
half years, and that support, I know that support that you receive from your wife is like
Oh,
none other.
yeah. Yeah.
I mean, just to be able to have somebody that's there in the thick of it with you, because sometimes, especially with spouses,
Hmm.
they don't always last. They don't always stick to it,
Yeah.
in the journey. And so I applaud your wife for the effort, for the, desire and just the love
Oh
to
yeah.
be able to just walk away from, I'm sure, something she loved as well.
She did. She did. And it's funny you say that. Well, not funny, but that I think every day, like I don't take Carrie for granted even a little bit. As a matter of fact, I was talking with a friend before this conversation with you and I, and we were talking about her grandfather actually just got diagnosed. And her father, unfortunately, couldn't keep him at home. And, long story short, he's in a memory care center. And she said, "Man, I admire your wife so much." And obviously, I admire everything my wife does, but I can't even do what she does. She is her nurse. She is her home health aide. She is the person who feeds her, who changes her, who gets fluid into her, who, washes her face and goes in and tries to make my mom smile. I mean, she's her everything. And when I asked my wife, why did you do it so quickly? She's like, "Because your mom's my best friend." And it just
Wow.
it killed me when she said that. And she didn't know what the journey would look like. I mean, Carrie doesn't. I have Alzheimer's in my family.
Okay.
There are a few of my aunts who have it, which are my mom's cousins, and aunts. They're her aunts and cousins. So I knew a little bit what the journey would look like, and I tried to describe it to Carrie, but just like you and I both know, there's really no describing it, right?
Right.
So when she did decide, yes, of course I'll hang out with your mom. Your mom's fun. I love being with her. She's my biggest fan. My mom adores Carrie. Um, at that point in time, my mom was at a much higher stage of being able to not take care of herself, but wash herself and all that stuff, feed herself. She just really needed a companion. And to watch how my wife has gone from a companion to a nurse, and without a blink, without even a question of it, Priscilla, like just, yeah, of course I'll do it.
What
Of
about
course.
background? Any background in nursing
Nothing.
or
Nothing.
see?
Nope. She has a master's in, oh, she's going to kill me because I'm going to get it wrong, but it's student affairs and administration and a bachelor's in psychology. So nothing to do with medical, anything. And like I said, she doesn't even bat an eye at any of it. And one thing with my wife that I'm beyond grateful for is she allows me the time to step away.
Okay.
So my mom is in a stage where she was in a really bad stage about a month or two ago where she would be very delusional and she would scream a lot. And to be graphic, right? Because we have to be.
Right.
When my mom is being changed by Carrie and the hospice nurse or the hospice HHA, and they come in and they change her in the morning and they give her a bath, she screams and it sounds like someone's hurting her. And no one's hurting her, but no, she can't understand what's being done. So Carrie will tap me and she'll say, "Put your headphones in, put on some music. Your mom's awake." Just to give me a heads up, this is going to be a rough day, and I know you don't want to hear it, right? Because there's those days where that's my mom, and it sounds like she's being stabbed right now, and there's nothing I can do about it. She's being changed, she's being well taken care of, but she doesn't understand it. So she even allows me that mental break to not have to always be involved in it because she recognizes it is my mom, and while it really hurts her a lot, it's not her parent, but it's
Right.
still very obviously hurtful and sad to her. But there's days where I'm just like, I can't even go in there because she's so delusional, right? And it's hard. And she allows me that buffer, and I've known a few other couples who have gotten divorced because they decided to be the caregiver to their parent, and the spouse was like, "This is too much. You don't have any time for me. You don't have any time to do anything, and I don't want to be involved in this."
Yeah.
So I thank every day for Carrie, every day, every day.
Yeah, and that is so, we'll get into that further because I do want to deal with that side of it, just understanding for real what
Yeah,
this looks like when you are a child. It matters. Like you said, I mean, I'm sure the relationship that Carrie and your mom has, like you said, yeah, I'm sure it bothers her, but there is a deep, wrenching pain that comes along with watching, your mom deal with this.
yeah,
I some people may think it's, whatever when I say this, but I think that Alzheimer's is a very brutal, mean, nasty disease. It
yeah,
it is. That's the only way that I know to describe it. I try to come up with other words, but they don't always fit
yeah,
for the situation. But when you are a child, and because as mom, that's the person that has loved you, has nourished you, has taught you just about everything, when you
yep,
have a good one, and
yeah.
so to watch it, whew, it's something. But just back to Carrie, I think now, how long have you all been married? How long have you all been together?
Sure. We've been married. Oh my God, I knew you were going to ask that. We got married in '07. So
Okay.
14 years married. And we've been together for 16 years, going on almost 17.
Okay. So she was close with your mom before any of this
Very
happened.
close. Yeah, very
Okay.
close. Very close.
And yeah, I applaud Carrie as well, just for stepping up,
Yes.
and just taking on that responsibility. And I know that beyond it being just your mom, it's her love for you. It's
Yeah.
her commitment to you. And so, I definitely applaud that
Yes.
more than anything else. And so to be in, an eight and a half years in, and she's still just as committed and just as dedicated to making sure that both of you are okay.
Yeah.
That means more, I think, than anything.
I agree.
For me, I'm solo.
Yeah.
I'm,
I know.
my daughter's here, and I'm thankful. And just the other week, I realized even the more that I don't even know if I could really do this without her being here.
Yeah.
I don't, it's not anything that's forced upon her, but I can honestly say she makes things so much easier when
Good.
she's here.
Yeah.
She'll go and spend the night. She'll go and stay over at her dad's, and I'm here. And usually when she's not here, I try to do what I've coined to be a 2-for-1, because I have my mom and my grandmother.
Yes.
And so, my mom is way more advanced than my grandmother. And, just a little backstory. Everybody doesn't know. I think I've mentioned it a time or two. My grandmother is not my biological
Oh, okay.
grandmother on either side.
Oh,
She's actually a family friend. My mom just kind of took to her when she moved down to Central Florida. I grew up in Lake Wells, Florida, and she grew up. She just took to her just from church,
yeah.
and from the time I've been a little kid up until right now, she just became my grandmother. And so
Yeah.
there's no blood relation, but it's not always blood that
Nope.
makes you related, And so my grandmother, and shout out to my grandmother while I'm on here, because when this comes out on Friday, she will be 98 years
Oh, wow.
old.
Holy cow. Holy cow.
And
Happy
so,
birthday, Grandma.
yeah, happy birthday to my grandmother. Y'all shout her out. So when you hear this, just put a comment in the comments and happy birthday, grandma. But, for her, hers is more old age.
Yeah.
It comes like prior to her moving in, and I kind of ended up with her. It just happened. Let me just put it like that. There was no plan. Actually, there was no plan for either one of them. It happened with both.
Yeah.
But for my grandmother, like literally a year, almost a year to the day, I got a call and ended up having to go and get her. And, I didn't exchange words. I got a call at work and didn't exchange words, just said, hey, don't bother her. Don't do anything. I'll be there by the end of the week.
Yeah.
And from that point, everything just kind of changed. And I went
Yeah.
from a caregiver of 1 to a caregiver of 2. And so my mom, just like you, if you follow my journey, it also runs in our family. So right now she has 2 brothers and a sister that recently passed away, who all have it. And so simultaneously right now, all dealing with it at the same time. And so, her behaviors are a lot more erratic. And so when I'm here by myself, I do the 2-for-1, where because I have a large bathroom, and so I put one in the shower. My grandmother likes showers. My mom likes baths, and so
That works.
put my grandmother in the shower, and she likes to stay in there for. You have to like get her out because she'll stay there forever. And then while she's showering, I'm giving my mom a bath. Well, normally it works really well, but the other week it was like so difficult, like really, really difficult. They were both in a mood, and
Yeah.
I
Yep.
realized then I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I could do this by myself without Caitlin, because it's a lot,
Yeah.
and I'm grateful. And I tell my daughter, thank you every day, every single day, every moment I get, because being a 16-year-old, there's not many
Oh,
16-year-olds
wow.
olds
No.
that are even interested
No.
at
No.
all in even assisting. but she does it without any type of hesitation. And her attitude always is like, mommy is family. Like, you don't
Yep.
have to thank me. It's family. And so, I get it, and so for Carrie to be so selfless, because that's what it takes.
Yeah.
It takes a level of selflessness.
Yeah.
And, even not having a degree, it takes just a heart to care for somebody.
It does.
To be able to do this, the patience that it takes, the resilience that it takes. I don't know, if your mom went through any of the stages of name calling and, all of that, but yeah, that's a hard road sometimes,
Oh yeah. Yeah, for sure. No, my mom, so it's funny because when she first got diagnosed, I brought her down to Florida and I joined some support groups and I went a few times and it wasn't for me at the moment. I was just like, I don't want to hear your story right now. I can't even think about your story right now. I just need to focus on this and figuring out what our story is going to be. And as time went on and I realized, as you and I both are realizing, we both knew this is a progressive disease. And as you mentioned, you're right. I cannot find any kind of word to describe Alzheimer's. There's nothing. The way I always tell people is I watched my father die of lung cancer, and in 5 months he was gone. He got diagnosed. 5 months later, he was gone. And this suffering that I'm watching my mother go through doesn't even compare. It doesn't even compare to watching my dad suffer for 5 months. So, I mean, that just gives it, because I know people, they understand cancer and when people go through cancer and what that dying looks like. And this is 1,000 times worse.
Yeah.
I can't even put into words. So as our journey progressed, I became more open about our story. And I realized how important my words were and how important this journey was that I was taking with Carrie and my mother, and how important it was to exactly what you're doing, show other people. It's not a, oh, you just forget your keys, or you don't remember where the store is, or maybe you forgot your granddaughter's name. Old people, that happens. That's not what Alzheimer's is. As a matter of fact, when I got her diagnosed, every single person in my family fought me. They all said, man, Melissa, you're putting your mom through a lot. Her husband just died of 60 years. And, people forget things. We're all forgetting things. Why are you doing this to her? And I remained stoic. And I said, because I know better. That's it. Because I talk to my mom every day. Every day I have talked to my mother since the day I have left New York, which was now 15 years ago. There was not a day I didn't talk to her. And I know what's happening.
Yeah.
So that journey, as we went on, it became that much more important because people don't really realize what it looks like. And that's when I started posting things like videos and showing people, hey, my mom's sitting here crying for no reason. I can't explain it. I can't stop it. She can't explain it. And it's heart-wrenching to watch. Or my mom can no longer feed herself, and showing people videos of watching her try to struggle and feed herself and Carrie stepping in to help her. She can't bathe herself. I remember the day she forgot how to stand.
Yeah.
We were sitting there and she started crying and saying, I can't get up. I can't get up. And, immediately your rational brain kicks in and you say, oh, okay, well, maybe she sprained her ankle. Maybe she pulled a ligament, right? Maybe who knows? Maybe she broke her femur last year. So maybe something's going on with that. I immediately get x-ray machines into the house. Like, we got to figure it out, right? And every doctor said, it's Alzheimer's, Melissa. She's just forgotten how to stand. This is her brain, another step of it shutting her body down. So just watching that and going, today my mom can no longer stand. And that's the end of her journey with even being mobile, right? And now, like you've seen the videos where she can no longer even take a drink through a straw anymore because she's starting to aspirate. So now Carrie has to literally spoon feed her water and press down on her tongue when she does it, so that motion of her swallowing won't go into the wrong pipe, and she'll actually swallow it and it'll go down the right way and she won't get a little bit of liquid into her lungs. So what I realized was, while it's so horrible to watch, people need to see it. They need to see it, right? Because it's not this, like I said, this little, oh, it's just a little old lady or a little old man who just, you got to help them remember things. No, that's not even remotely it. Thankfully, my mom didn't go through the cursing and the calling my wife names or myself names, but she did go through crying, frustration, definite frustration, watching that transition from where she still remembers a little bit, and then realizing she knows that she's starting to lose her memory. She knows that something is wrong and she can't figure it out.
Yeah.
And just watching that transition from a little bit of clarity to complete cloudiness. And people used to ask me, they say, you know, just perfect example, does she remember who you are? No. You know, how did that feel? How do you think that felt? Right? Of course it
Right.
was. But my stoic answer is it's Alzheimer's. I knew it was going to happen. It was the day that she lost my father's name and Carrie's name was what hit me the hardest. My father was, they started dating when she was 13, he was 15, and they never spent a day apart, not a day.
Wow.
So, you know, that was the hardest part because she would always, he passed so quickly. And, you know, she cried every day, my Johnny, my Johnny, my Johnny. And I would show her pictures and I would never let her forget. But the day that she stopped saying Johnny was like, this is it. This is the end. You know, this is the last stage that my mom's going to enter. And wherever this is going to take us, it's going to be, obviously, you know, it's going to take her life at some point. But like you said, where this journey goes, I don't know. You know, I don't know. I know that if my mom wasn't under my wife's care, she'd be gone. She'd be gone.
Yeah.
If she was, you know, not to say that, and I say these in my posts, right? There's a lot of really good homes. There's a lot of good she doesn't even qualify for a memory center anymore, which a lot of people don't even realize.
Really?
Yeah, because she's not mobile. She's not mobile. So to be in a memory care center, you have to be able to get up, and she can't. So she doesn't even qualify for that. So she would go to nothing more than just long-term nursing home, a skilled nursing home, because she can't turn herself. She can't do anything. So the hospice when they come in, Carrie always recognizes everything. They're like, hey, I see a little sore on Joyce's arm. What is that? What's going on? Right. And immediately they're putting salve on it and they're treating it. Any place else, you know, she would have gotten a staph infection. She'd be gone. She had several UTIs. And instead of keeping her catheterized the entire time, I found out there's an external catheter. So we got an external catheter and whatnot. She hasn't had that UTI since. And it's actually been easier for Carrie to care for her. But that wouldn't have happened in a nursing home. You know, they wouldn't have either paid for the external catheter, and somebody might never have caught it. I mean, these women and men have sometimes a 1 to 12 to 20 ratio of patients, you know, and my mother requires 24/7 care. You know, she needs someone to be on it. When she's awake, quick, get fluid into her, quick, get food into her. She's awake, you know,
Cannot wait.
Cannot wait. I mean, you're talking about small little buffers of time to get this stuff into her. So yeah, it's the journey is, it takes my breath away to think about sometimes. It really does. It takes my breath away.
I know you're talking about, I'm not sure where that echo is coming from. You're talking about stages that I haven't, you know, I didn't even realize,
Yeah.
you know, were, I guess, ahead. And, you know, I don't want to say I can't imagine. I know, and I tell people, and I'm not ashamed about it at all. It is definitely by far my faith that
Yes.
allows me to do what I do with the level of patience and grace that I do it. It is definitely my faith. But even with that, there are days that are extremely hard.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, over the last about 2 or 3, they were hard, you know, because I found myself in a place, unlike you know, who does have somebody that's there and you can at least, you know, lean on, and you can at least, you know, have a shoulder. Or one thing that people don't realize is being a caregiver, it's a lonely journey.
Yes, it is.
It's lonely. And so when it's already lonely and you are I'm not going to say alone, but alone, it can be even more, you
Yeah.
know. And when you care for yourself and 3 other people, you have a tendency, and what makes sense to you is yourself, you're last, because
Yep.
you can't afford to deal with the issues that you have, because every decision you make and every emotion and all that, it spills over into the ones you're caring for.
Yes, it
And
does.
so, you know, you're kind of left at the bottom of the totem pole. And sometimes life can just be so overwhelming,
Yes.
you know. And I'm like, you're talking about stages that I haven't seen, and I haven't, I mean, even though I've been around this a long time,
Yeah.
because both my mom's parents had it. My grandmother, her mom, actually came to live with us. I think I had to be around 9, maybe 10, maybe a little younger. And she came and lived with us for a little while. And so I've seen it, but not on that level because, you know, even with my grandmother, she was still mobile, she could still
Yeah.
walk around. And I mean, my mom ended up having to place her in a nursing facility because of the fact that she just couldn't handle her at home, and we were
Yeah.
younger, and she didn't have the resources and all of that, and so she ended up going into a home. And so by the time she did become bedridden, it was long years later, but I was never in the face of all of that.
Yeah.
And so now I'm in the face of it. And when you add on COVID,
Oh,
because prior to COVID, I could go
yeah.
out, I can go
Yep.
watch a movie and relax. I could
Yep.
go, get my nails done or
Mhm.
whatever.
Anything.
Right,
Leave.
right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so then you add COVID in and you're not going out as much because the thing about it is, when you make a decision, you're making a decision not just for you,
Yep.
but you're making a decision for yourself and for the people you're caring for. And
Absolutely.
so I may want to go here, but if going here puts me at risk,
Mm-hmm.
and then I have to come back home and I
Mm-hmm.
have to, be with them, or the thing sometimes, and I try not to over process. I try hard not to over process. And most of the time I do really good at it, but there are some times when I do fail.
Yeah.
But my thought as well is, okay, God forbid, but COVID going on,
Mm-hmm.
even being able, going to the hospital, I have 2 people. And so I can't leave one there and be home with the other one.
Right.
And so there's a whole lot that goes on in your mind when you're thinking about it. And
Oh
so
yeah.
by the end of the day, you're just like, forget it. I'll just be home.
Yep.
And everybody can't relate to that because
No.
when you're not there, you don't understand, well, why can't you, or why don't you?
Right.
Because it's not just about me,
Right.
you know. And so, that it's the part of that journey.
Oh
That's
yeah.
that part of that journey that you just want people to understand, like, hey, no, this is not a walk in the park. And you don't, even with this platform, it's not just for caregivers of Alzheimer's and dementia. It just happens to be what we talk about
Right. The
because it
caregivers in
happens to
general.
be, yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so you don't negate other people's situations,
Right.
but caring for somebody with Alzheimer's, caring for somebody with, dementia, it's a whole different ball game,
Oh yeah.
whole entirely different ball
Oh
game.
yeah, it's. I mean, like I said earlier, it's got to be the ugliest disease I've ever seen, and I know the main reason the person you love is stolen from you, right? You sit there and like you had mentioned in one of my blog or one of my posts that I put, it is so surreal to have my mother in front of me and her not be there,
Yeah.
and there's this constant grieving almost daily that happens. And like you said, I try not to overprocess either, right? I go to work, I go about my business, I go in, hey mom, how you doing? I play with her nose a little bit, my normal little routine. I try to get her a little frustrated just to get some kind of animation out of her. But there are those days where, like you said, especially with COVID, the journey is already lonely. And now to have to not have that ability to have any kind of respite at all because of COVID, or the little bit of respite you get is so, you're pulling in so many directions. Like I said, should you go? I don't really want to go, but if I go, but it's outside. But are other people going to be vaccinated? Are they going to have masks on? What if Carrie gets sick? What am I going to do? And that goes through my head, right? If God forbid
Yeah.
she gets COVID, what what do I do? I don't have anybody who I can't take care of my mom the way Carrie does. I don't have anybody who can. So what's going to happen? She's going to have to go to a home, and then what? Right? At
Right.
least until Carrie's better. So the journey is not. It is beyond lonely as far as the people around you struggling even to deal with it. So I don't know about you, but a good majority of people in my life, especially really like my family and stuff, they've stepped away. It's almost as if she's gone already.
Yeah.
And it's it's hurtful. It's frustrating. And I get it. I do get it. They're all in New York and I'm here in Florida with my mom. But in the same breath, sometimes I'm like, well, what about me? I'm still here. Are you
Yeah.
not? What about checking in on me?
Correct.
I'm your niece. I'm your sister. I'm your cousin. Like, how come no one's going, how are you doing?
That is so, I literally just had this
Yeah,
conversation with
it's
somebody
crazy.
just today because, people don't understand the
Yeah.
depth of that and how much that is needed.
Mm-hmm.
It's essential. It's
Yeah.
needed because literally, and I had to realize, and I had to tell myself this just this week, and I remind myself of this periodically. It really is okay to not be okay.
Yes.
It's okay to not be great every time somebody asks me, how am I doing?
Yep.
It's okay to not be good when somebody asks me, how am I doing?
Yes.
And it doesn't take away from my faith. It doesn't take away from my trust and my belief in God. It just simply means that I'm human over here, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that, you know, um, sometimes you just want to just have that where
Yes.
somebody cares enough to just say, how are you really doing?
Mm-hmm.
How are things really going with you? I
Yes.
posted this post earlier because again, this was just kind of a week for me.
Yeah.
And it says there's much pain to endure when watching a loved one suffer with Alzheimer's disease. There is the pain of perpetual grief. There's the raw wound of continual loss. There's the struggle to preserve dignity and desire to respect and present and cling to the past. However, in the midst of heartache, there's a small glimmer of light that exists to remind us of things that Alzheimer's can't take away. The
Yes.
warmth of a touch, the importance of smiles and laughter, and the knowledge of what it truly means to experience unconditional love and acceptance.
Yeah.
And reality, that's exactly what it is. I mean, it is a continual when you're looking at this, and I said earlier we would get back to this, but even as a child, when you're looking at this head on,
Yeah.
and you know it's hard. I don't have another way to describe it.
Yeah.
Some days it's hard. I mean, my mom is in a stage now where, you know most of the time now I keep her in bedroom slippers,
Yeah.
because putting her on socks, she's going to take them off and you have no idea where she's put them.
Yes.
But putting on a bedroom shoe, she'll put it on backwards, like literally backwards, and she's walking, with it. Um, Cannot put on clothes
No.
at all. I mean, that's non-existent.
Yeah.
Can't bathe herself at all. That's, it doesn't, you can tell her to do something and it just doesn't click.
Yeah.
When it comes to eating, she can still feed herself. However, we're at a stage now where I'm constantly having to remind her
Prompter.
to,
Yeah. Yep.
right,
Yeah.
use your utensil because
Mhm.
she's more or less trying to use her hands.
Yes.
And so, you know, it can be hard. I mean, that's the reality of
Yeah.
it. It's a difficult place to be. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
you're grateful. I don't know about you, but being in a place where I can take care of my mom,
Oh yeah.
you have that grateful state because, as you said, I mean, for me, my mom always drilled into me, I don't want to go into a nursing home. I don't want to go. And I think that partially made it difficult for
Yeah.
me to place her in one because I know that that was never her desire.
Hmm.
And so, God just kind of worked it out for us that I'm able to do it.
Yeah.
Um, but even in doing it, yes, you're grateful because you can turn around and, not repay, but give them back what they gave to you.
Oh yeah.
But
I,
it doesn't take away from the emotional side and
no.
the side of it that some days you do. And I had one of those this past weekend where I just wanted to get in my bed, pull the covers up, and just be there.
Block out the world. Yep.
Yeah, block it all out, because like you said earlier, like for me, when I do have someone come over, it's usually during those times when I have to go and take care of other things for the
Yep.
house. I have to go to the grocery store. I have
Yep.
to make sure this is done. And so even the few hours that you get,
Mm-hmm.
you're still not able to just relax and just
Exactly.
be, because
Exactly.
there's always something you have to take care of. And
Always.
so, that's this journey, when
Yeah.
you're talking about, and we share it, because the other side is, for somebody, I know you were talking about your friend whose parent was just diagnosed.
Yeah.
I want people to understand too that it's not going to all be easy,
No.
but it's doable. When they
Yes.
look at you, when they look at me, and they see, you know what, I can do this. Because
Mm-hmm.
sometimes people question whether or not they can. They
Mm-hmm.
want to,
Right.
but they question whether or not I can do this.
Yes.
And so I want the real side of it to come through, to say you can do it.
Yeah.
You really can do it. It might be difficult, but you can do it. My
Sure.
whole motto, the theme of it's really become the theme of my life. But definitely for this podcast and for my favorite girl in Alzheimer's, my whole theme is keep going, keep
Yep.
pushing, keep loving, and keep caring.
Yep.
That's what it's all about.
Oh, I agree.
Because um the scripture I will always hold on to, when he says, my grace is sufficient enough. And when we're in a place where we can't, then he gives us more grace. And then we recognize as well the fact that when I can't do it, the scripture also says that our his strength is made perfect in my weakness. And so when I'm at my lowest point, that's when God's strength becomes even more. And that's what I hold on to.
Yeah.
And so it's doable. You can do it. It
I
doesn't mean you won't have any challenges with it,
I
but you
agree.
can do it.
I
Yeah.
agree. And when you just made me think of something, right? It's those moments that, again, so like Carrie allows me, and every now and again, like you said, when people ask me, and the running joke is, oh, Melissa's fine, right? Hey, how you doing? I'm fine, right? I'm always going to be fine. And I think that's that little protective layer that we all keep, to just keep that semblance of your mental health and not letting it kind of spiral out of control like it can, right?
Yeah.
And there are those moments where, Carrie knows if I go in the bathroom and I close it, I'm just having that day, right? I'm having that day where I can't keep it together anymore. I need 20 minutes and I'll be good, right? And talk about the journey of what you were saying earlier, about how difficult it is. So I work for Apple, and I have a very, very, very good friend. When I first came on board about 10 years ago, his mom was still alive, but she was in the last, or no, I think she had just passed actually from Alzheimer's. And he took me under his wing, and he has brought me through this journey. And every time I meet with him, he reminds me that whatever happens, I'm never going to have regrets for taking care of my mom.
That's right.
I'm never going to look back and think, man, what if I would have done this? Or why didn't I do this? Or why couldn't I work harder, or try harder to take care of her? And he always tells me, he says, it's not an easy journey. It's a horrible journey, but you're her daughter, right? And it kills me when people go, man, you're such a good daughter. I'm just her daughter.
That's right.
She was an amazing mother. She deserves nothing less than
That's
to be
right.
cared for, and people forget, and it's so surreal again to watch. My mom was a legal secretary. She worked in a law office for almost 45 years, and, raised two kids, and was married for 60 years, and was a daughter and a cousin and a niece. And it's like that's forgotten about, right? When they start really going down this path where they can't communicate anymore and they don't know who people are. And it's other people who just need to turn that off because it's too hard to watch. And it's horrible to watch. But I know that exactly what you just said, even in those moments when I feel so weak and vulnerable, my faith in just not even humanity per se, but my wife, my mother, I was raised Catholic, so I'm always going to have a faith of there's something higher than me.
Yeah.
Always going to have that faith. So something is always going to come and give me that strength to go, we can do this. We
Yeah.
can do this. There's always going to be someone suffering worse than us. And I'm grateful that I have this house where I can put my mom on her own side, where she has a bathroom, and it's her little wing. It's not a huge house, but it's her little wing.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful that I married someone who sacrifices so much of her time for another human being who didn't birth her. And I'm grateful that I have a job that I can afford to be the sole income. It's all these things that I try to remember. And I think that that's always my message when I talk to people and they say, man, I can't believe, it's so hard. It's got to be hard. And I just say, yeah, but you know what? Someone has it harder. Someone has it harder.
Yep.
And I'm always just going to remain positive and grateful for the things that I do have, because everybody's journey through life, period, is not always going to be pretty.
That's
And this
right.
is this is just my journey, and this is my mom's journey, and we're doing it together, and it is what it is. I think the hardest thing for me that weighs on me now, though, going back to the levels of her, or stages of her Alzheimer's. I was telling the guy I was telling you about earlier, my friend whose mom passed, and I said, I'm getting to the point where I feel selfish. I'm getting to the point where I'm feeding her with a spoon to get water into her. And, she's still eating and she's still drinking with a spoon, but she has no quality of life. There's no quality of life anymore. And he said to me, he said, you are her daughter and you are connected in such love, and your hearts are so intertwined. You will know when your mom is suffering. And he said, do you feel like that? And I said, no, she still smiles sometimes. I could still, irritate her and go, mom, mom, mom. And she's, stop it, so there's still those little glimmers of her there. And he said, then you'll know. You'll know. He said, this is not, your mother when she's, when she's happy and when she's herself. And you'll know when you no longer see that little glimmer anymore, it's time to let go.
Yeah.
And, those words, when I hear them, they're so hard to hear, but he's right. He's right. She's not suffering. She is still eating. She is still drinking, but just having even that support of, who do I turn to? Who's gone through this journey? What did you do?
Yeah.
And getting onto the outs forum and saying, did anybody experience this? When did you decide to let go? And 90% of the time, 95% of the time, oh, we didn't have them in the home anymore. We had to put them in a skilled nursing facility because either we were too old, or we didn't have the time, or we had 5 kids in the house. We couldn't watch our parent, and take care of children, or we didn't have the money, or we didn't have spousal support. We didn't have anything. And when you hear those journeys, that's another time where I'm like, wow, this is where my story makes a difference, because I do have that support, and I can help people understand, if they have the support, what's possible and what's going to happen. But yeah, the journey is, and like you said, there's literally no way to describe what's happening. The only thing that I think I've ever heard, and it's during some of our advocacy days, is that this is the 6th leading cause of death with no cure, no prevention, and no treatment, right? Even cancer has a little bit of cure, some here and there, a little bit of treatment, right? We got some chemo. There's nothing. There's nothing for Alzheimer's.
Nothing at all.
Right. And that's where I tell people, I'm like, we are the 6th leading cause, and we have nothing to help with this disease. And there are millions of caregivers suffering and millions of people suffering with this, with this horrible disease. So that's the only thing I try to remember. And I don't know about you, but recently too, I started really posting things about the first survivor. And recently I said, I could be that first survivor. I could be the one with that white flower. And my girlfriend calls me. She said, I never thought of that. I forgot that it's hereditary. I forgot that you're at a really high risk, Melissa. And she just started crying. And I said, well, that's not going to happen, because we're going to find the first
That's
survivor.
right. We're gonna
We're going to find them. I said, so just
that is our
keep
goal.
donating. Yes. Keep donating. Keep the positive vibes coming. Keep checking on people. And we're going to find it. I don't think any of us, you, myself, all of the advocates, all of the walkers, I don't think we will ever give up until there's a cure. We can't. We can't. We can't.
Because I think about me. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
sure. There's an echo again. I don't know what happened. But sit back a little bit. I don't know when you did it before. I don't know what happened. But at any rate, I think about not just myself, but my children. I want to find a cure for me and for the future generations, not just my family, but everybody's family. Because yeah, absolutely, you can have a good quality of life being diagnosed, but and I don't know about you, but yeah, there are moments, and that's reality. There are moments when you do think like, wow, would I even want my children to have to care for me in this state? You know, yes, it's a thought when you're watching it
Yeah.
day in and day out. There are certain thoughts that come when you're like, man, this is hard.
Yeah.
You know, I believe that my children would take care of me, but you have to ask yourself, would I want them to?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it is caring, period. Whether it's Alzheimer's, whether it's cancer, whatever, it's a sacrifice. And it takes a level of sacrifice that, you know, it's a great level. One of the things that I've had to deal with as well is when you realize that, yes, you're sacrificing, you're doing what you're doing. And there are some things that you may have been used to doing that you can't you can't do it any longer because right now. And so what I've had to do is tell myself this is a season and seasons change. You don't know how long the season will be, but the hope in it is they change. They
Yes.
do. Winter does not last forever.
Yes.
Summer does not last forever. When you're connecting it to something like Alzheimer's or cancer or what have you, it may be years. The season may end up being years, but it won't be forever. And so you put the priorities where the priorities have to be, and you realize that, you know, I can catch up. But I think it's just sometimes the reality that, man, you know, because it could be something that you really love to do, but
Yes.
in this particular season you can't do it. You know, I
Yes.
mean, church was a great part of my life um before COVID, and prior to COVID happening, I had to kind of slow down with going because, you know, I had to be home.
Yeah.
And so now post COVID, I think I've gone back maybe like twice, two, maybe three times. But you know, there's just it's all of it is it's part of the journey, you
It
know,
is.
and you realize that. And for me, one of the reasons why I do this and why I do what I do is because you realize that you can either sit in it and you can allow it to really depress you, all but kill you,
Yeah.
or you can get up and you can take where you are and you can make as much of a difference
Yeah.
as you can with it. You may not be able to change everything, but you can make a difference wherever it is. You can make a difference, and that's what this advocacy is all about. You
Oh
know,
yeah.
I know you are a lot more involved with the advocacy side than I am. I'm just not really getting into it, but I'm like, that's what the advocacy is all about. You
Yes.
know, that's why we're pushing these bills. We're talking
Mhm.
to the senators. We're, you know, we're talking to the representative because there are certain bills
Yep.
and laws that we need established
Yeah.
in order for this thing to happen the way that it needs to happen.
I agree.
And you know, I mean, we're going to get into the walk because I do want to talk about that. I know, I mean, I'm looking at your numbers like, man, I need to connect with Melissa. You know, so we're going to get into the walk before we get off of here because I do want to, you know, your walk. When is your walk?
I think it's October 2nd. I was actually just logging in to check, but I'm pretty sure it's October 2nd for Flagler and in St. John's. We're in
Okay.
September, right? I'm trying to think what month.
Yeah, we're in September. We are in
Yeah,
September.
October 2nd. Saturday, October 2nd is our walk.
Okay. Yep, we had our scheduled for the same day, but we had to reschedule it. But
Wow.
I mean, man, you have $10,000, a $10,000 goal.
Yes.
And I love the fact that not only do you have it, you're like halfway there. Amazing.
Thank you.
Amazing. I mean, I, I've been on this journey for going on my fourth year, and I can't say that I've raise $10,000 yet.
You will.
But
You will.
listen, you're giving me that extra oomph to like, hey, put some fire up under here. I mean, because yeah, you're almost halfway there, and I applaud it. Like,
Thank you.
yeah,
Thank you. Yeah, I'm a very, and I think that goes back to what I was saying earlier was I used to fundraise and show all the good stuff, right? Like, hey, look, Carrie, because Carrie would take my mother everywhere. They would go to football games. They would go to the bar. They not the bar. They go to restaurants, and they would go everywhere, shopping, everywhere together. So there'd be all these amazing. And my mom went with us everywhere. If we went out on, to dinner, she came. If we hung out with friends, she came. So I painted this picture of, wow, look, mom's living this great life, even though she has this disease. And then I realized, but it's not all great, and I'm showing you this very fake side of what's really happening, because you're seeing these great moments, but you're not seeing the moment right before when I took the picture and she didn't know who she was, or she started crying because she got lost in her head, and you're not seeing that. So I realized I need people to understand what the journey looks like on top of those good moments. And when I started showing, the videos and explaining the real down and dirty, to be honest, that's when people were like, I had no idea that she was this advanced. I had no idea your mom couldn't feed herself anymore. These kinds of things would start coming out. And all of a sudden the donations just got bigger, and the outreach, if you ever need anything, I'm a RN in hospice. If my grandmother went through the same thing. My aunt went through the same, all these stories started coming in. But yeah, I'm brutal. Like I'll email you. I'll be like, hey, Priscilla, you donated last year. Haven't seen you this year. You okay? I'm brutal. I'll text. But also we do. Carrie and I, we started doing woodworking a few years ago. So I'll even post some of our work and say, whatever you want, commission me. 100% of the proceeds goes to the Alzheimer's Association. I'm currently running a auction for some artwork that I've done, and that's like, whoever has the highest bid, 100% is going to the Alzheimer's Association. So I just try to get creative, and I try to let people know, as much as I appreciate your dedication to thinking about us, I want you to know I'm as dedicated to getting a cure as you are to writing that check. And I don't want you to think you're just writing that check and it's going bye-bye. I want you to see, I'm on here, Priscilla. I'm doing advocacy. I'm doing the walk. I'm, talking to people about being a caregiver. I'm trying to constantly be a resource for people. I want people to understand that, that donation isn't just going out into the air and they're never going to see what's going to happen. I want them to see what's happening with it. Right. And I post all these bills that need to change. And even just something like, so talking about the walk a little bit, one of the biggest things of my journey has been the Alzheimer's Association. When my mom started going through a crying phase, I didn't know what to do. And I said, I walk for you. Let me call you. They immediately sent somebody down and they did like a little intake with my mom, and they sat with her. And, that's when they told us, maybe you should bring hospice in. And you mean hospice? She's not dying. And the woman said, she is actively dying. She has a terminal disease, right? And it was that slap in the face for me to hear that. And I knew it was, but to really hear, this is a terminal disease, Melissa, there's no cure. When I realized she is dying. So she actually hooked us up with Elder Affairs. And that's when my whole realizing there are things out there for us. There are resources. Just even being in Florida, I got my mom on Medicaid. And I said, well, now you're completely disabled. Let's apply for Medicaid. And Alzheimer's Association said, cool, go to the Elder Affairs Bureau. They'll help you with the application. They'll get you on the waiting list a lot faster because you're using them as a resource. They'll come down, they'll advocate for you and say, yes, we've met Joyce. We see how far along she is. So it's incredible, the resources that are out there. And that's why I'm every time I meet somebody who just brings up, oh yeah, so-and-so is diagnosed. Cool. If you need anything, please let me know, because I guarantee I have an answer or a resource for you. And that's where that money, not only just to cure, but for us, for the caregivers, Carrie. So Medicaid, the long-term care in Florida, will give us some respite throughout the year. But on top of that, they also will pay Carrie as a participant direct option, X amount of dollars per hour. It's not a lot, but it's still a little bit to be like, here you go. And when she doesn't want to use those hours, we can give it to someone else to give respite for us. And a lot of people don't know that. When I went last year 2 years ago now to Tallahassee, I met other advocates who were like, what do you mean Carrie's getting paid? I'm like, Medicaid pays for participant direct option. Let me guess, you don't know? Or you do know?
Yeah, I have it. No, I know.
Okay,
I
there you
have
go.
that's the only way that I'm able to do what I do at home, because
Mm-hmm.
I do have a full-time person that's here,
Yes.
and it's through Medicaid,
Perfect.
that long-term care
Yep.
program, because without it, I wouldn't be able to do this.
Not at
You
all.
know, it works for me greatly because I have somebody that's here, so I can maintain work because I have to
Yes.
work.
Yes.
I haven't been blessed with my millions yet. They're
Not
coming,
yet.
but not yet. And so I have to work. And so because of that, the only thing, is when COVID happened, unfortunately,
Yes.
we lost a lot of help as
Yep.
well. I mean,
Us too.
people have to stay home. And so on top of that, I took advantage of the Alzheimer's Project. They actually have a volunteer program
Yep.
where, I had a volunteer that was coming. I had one, I love her. She was amazing. I mean, amazing. And she would come, 2 or 3 hours a day, and fell in love with both of them. Matter of fact, I just talked to her earlier this week. She called me,
Yeah.
and I forgot to call her. Her birthday was the other day. Please forgive me, Dion. I'm gonna call her. But yeah. So I mean, there are resources out there, and I have
Yes.
right now. Alzheimer's Association, for those that will view this on YouTube, is scrolling at the bottom. But for those that are just listening, reach out, www.alz.org, or call the 24-hour hotline at 800-272-3900.
Yeah.
Okay, there's somebody there 24 hours a day, and they're an amazing resource. And absolutely, this money, the walk is the largest fundraiser
Yep.
for the Alzheimer's Association.
Yep.
And and so that's why you're involved. That $10,000 is not going in your pocket, is not going in your household. It's straight to the Alzheimer's Project, so that Alzheimer's Association, I'm sorry, I just mentioned the project, but straight to the association to be able to help fund the research.
Yes.
We don't have the billions that are going here,
Yes.
billions upon billions. We have funds going, but we need even more.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
we're going to get there, or when we get there. I'm not going to say
We
if,
will.
because we are
We
going
will.
to
We
get
will.
there.
We will. Because that's
But
one thing that I think a lot of people forget, right? Is it's not just our country that's affected. The world is affected by this disease, and the association is global, right? And there's people fighting just like you and I in Australia, London, China. We're all fighting for a cure, and we're all looking at each other going, man, we don't want to have any more people go through this, right? We want that white flower. We want someone to stand on stage going, I was cured of this. I'm not going to die from this disease. And I fully anticipate I'm going to see it in my lifetime. I know I'm going to. I have to. I'm going to. We're going to. Right. But yeah, I mean, and even what you were just saying, the 24/7, Carrie's even just called the association just for just to talk, just to be like, I don't know what to do. She's doing this and she's doing that, and I don't know what to do. And just for that little bit of mental health support at 10 o'clock at night when she's screaming and you're trying to calm her down, and you've given the medication the doctor prescribed, and you're going, what do I do? There's no reasoning with somebody with Alzheimer's. Their brain's shutting down. There's nothing I can say that's going to make sense to this woman. What do I do? And she's called and late at night going, please just help me. And they give little tips and little tricks. But for the most part, it's just that ability to have someone to call. Because as you mentioned, it is the loneliest journey I've ever been on. And I'm not alone. Yep. And it's the loneliest journey I've ever been on. It is unreal to realize how hard it is for so many people to watch it. And I get it, but they're just like, I can't do what you're doing, Melissa. And I can't begrudge them of that. I don't look at them and go, you're a bad person. I look at them and I hope one day that they can find that faith like you and I have to go, you know what? I know it's hard, but I need to go see Joyce. I need to see how she's doing. And that's all I hope for the people who are just like, it's a hard journey and I don't want to watch this. So I don't ever look at them and think negatively. I look at them and I feel sorry because they're not going to get that time back with my mom. I
At
spend
all.
24/7 with my mom. I've been for the last 8.5 years, my mom's been with me 24/7. So
24
there's,
hours, 7
right. And
days a
there's,
week.
I have no regrets of every single second that I've spent with her. We've, like you said, there's nothing that will take away the memories that we've had, not only before Alzheimer's, but even with Alzheimer's, right? And the things that she probably wouldn't have even done, like go to a football game, if she wasn't diagnosed with Alzheimer's. But because of it, she's like, sure, I'll go. And she was so easygoing with it. But I'll never look back in time and go, man, I wish I woulda. I'm never going to have that sentence come out of my mouth. And that's the only thing I can say for anybody who might be taking a step back because it's hard to see. Just remember, right? You can't recreate time. Once that moment is gone, that moment is gone forever. And that's all I ever try to remember, is that I can't recreate anything as far as time goes, and is our most precious resource that we have. That's it. There's nothing else to it. I can't do anything about it other than tell people she would love to see you. If you want to come, come. If not, I understand. It is hard to watch. She's not the same person, but it's still Joyce. It's
Yeah.
still Joyce.
And that's what I try and get people to understand. It's not them, it's the disease.
Yes.
They're the same person they were
Yep.
before they were diagnosed. They act a little different, they respond a little different, but they're the same person.
Yeah.
They love, they feel, they have emotions the same
Yes.
way. My mom right now thinks I'm her mom, literally thinks that I'm her mother.
Yeah.
And so, I am, and I'm great with that. I'm comfortable with that. I'm her person.
Yes.
There are days when I do want my mama. That's the reality of it. There are days when you just like a kid and you want your mama too.
Yes.
But you realize that who you have now is who she is. And
Yes.
so, I still get the hugs, I still get the I love yous, I still get I really appreciate you. Thank you so much for everything you're doing for me. I get that.
Yeah.
And so that feeds that desire that I have just for my mom.
Yeah.
And so you take what you can get, you understand that this is what it is. You take what you can get and you put value to that.
Yes.
And that is what people have to learn and understand. And so not gonna keep this going. I have enjoyed you being on here, enjoyed this conversation. We have to get together again.
Yes. Yes.
I want to give those that are listening Melissa's contact information. Catch her on Facebook at Melissa Wos, Melissa Wos. You can find her on Facebook. She has some amazing things out there that they've been auctioning. I've been looking at them out there auctioning. So go out there and find her. Her walk page is out there. Their walk is October 2nd. You can still give up to
Yes.
that date. And if you miss it,
Keep giving.
gonna take
Keep
your
giving.
money. Still gonna take your money. It all goes to an amazing cause. And
Yes.
we're just two daughters who, we're caring.
Yes.
And we're also advocates because we want this thing to end. And so, this is Melissa. This is her journey. Go on her Facebook page. You can see her beautiful mom. She has some pictures out there. She has some videos out there. Shout out again to Carrie, her wife,
Yes.
who is doing an amazing job in helping her to care for her mom, to helping her to stay sane and do what they do. We didn't get to talk about your little incident that happened. We'll get back on, but
Good.
there's no place like home. There's no place like a daughter taking
Yep.
care of her mom, like children caring for their mom. And we're gonna keep advocating. We're gonna keep putting it out there. She is halfway to that $10,000 mark. I believe she's gonna make it to the 10. I'm over here just trying to get to like 1,200, but now I just yeah, you've increased my mindset even the more. I've never been a good salesperson. I share my journey and I ask people to just, because reality, all of us know somebody who
Oh,
has
yeah.
been affected by this one way or the other. And
Yes.
if you don't know them, let the sun keep going up and coming down. Somebody, you'll know somebody until we get that cure. And so it means as much as it means to us, because we're right here in it,
Yep.
and I tell people that all the time. I knew about it, but until I came face to face with it, it means so much more, and something totally different to me now at this place. And I would do it even if it wasn't my mom, because I'm able to see it and
Yeah.
you recognize it. And I don't just love her, but everybody. I don't want anybody, including my worst enemy,
Yeah.
to have to deal with this. And so this is why we do what we do.
Yep.
And so, it's been amazing talking with you.
You as well,
We're gonna,
Priscilla. Thank you so much for having me. It was an
yeah,
incredible conversation. I mean, it's. I know it has to end right now, but I know our journey together will never end from this point
yeah,
forward.
we're gonna
I'm
stay
so grateful
connected.
for this connection with you now.
Yes, we're going to stay connected. We'll be on some more advocacy projects
Yes.
together. And I'm going to try and get what's the face on here? Oh my gosh, I can't even think of his name right now. I just had a brain fart, but we're going to be on here again. We're going to pull some of these bills up and some of the
Yes.
other things that we're talking about. We're going to get them on here, because the only way people know sometimes is when they hear about it,
Yeah.
because you're not always looking for it. But when you hear about it, and it sparks something in you, and you can, join in the fight as well and help us to find this cure. Because, at some point, right now it's us, but at some point it may be you. And so we're going to close out. I just want you to do one thing for me before we head out. Give some advice to somebody who, may be on this journey. You know, people that are just now starting their journey with it, but give them some advice to help kind of keep them going, keep them loving, keep them pushing
Yeah, for
while they're on
sure.
this journey.
For sure. I would say my biggest piece of advice is just remember the love, right? The reason that you're doing it, the reason that you're looking at your person and going, what is this going to look like and how am I going to do it? And know you have the strength, like you said earlier, inside yourself, but also know that there are so many people that will support you. Like you mentioned, the Alzheimer's Association and just support groups. And there's so many different avenues that you can turn to. Don't turn away your resources. They're there. They're there. And a lot of folks don't know about them, but they're, like you mentioned, just calling the Alzheimer's Association when you feel lost is probably the first step in your journey where you're going to go, wow, I'm not alone. I'm not alone.
All right, awesome. And just to go along with that, before I end, check out my website, www.priscillajeanlouis.com. That's PriscillaJeanLouis. You can go on that website as well. Go to the My Favorite Girls page, and there's some resources on that page as well. So there's some books out there that I found to be extremely helpful during this time, as well as some links to some other agencies that provide resources for you. If you're here in Tallahassee for the Alzheimer's Project, that is on there. Acts 2 Project, they're throughout the state of Florida. So go on there, get some of these resources and take advantage of them, so that if you're on this journey, it'll be a little bit easier for you.
Yes.
Thank you so much for listening. It's a wrap. Thank you so much.